Our next stop in the Blood Hunt is the Strange Academy tie-in issue. For those of you not in the know, the Strange Academy is exactly what it sounds like. It's a magical school for magical teens set in the Marvel Universe. It has a bunch of Marvel magic users as its teachers, characters like Ilyana Rasputin, aka Magic, Jericho Drum, aka Dr. Voodoo, Nico Minoru of the Runaways, the Scarlet Witch. I believe one of the Ghost Riders has shown up before. I think Agatha was a teacher there for a while. It's basically Hogwarts, but Marvel themed. The student body is incredibly varied, but they consist of a wide variety of magical characters from all different realms of the Marvel Universe. And I have to admit that I'm actually very unfamiliar with this particular comic. I did buy the first issue when it came out, I read it, and I'll admit I wasn't very impressed by it, and I've just kind of gone about my business. If there is one thing that I have learned as an X-Men fan from buying several generations of X-Men student books, between the New Mutants, X-Force, Generation X, Academy X, New X-Men, Generation Hope, and then even more recent comics like Bishop the War College, or the most recent volume of New Mutants, which saw a handful of new characters get introduced as well, it's that in 5 years, none of these characters are going to matter anymore. So I felt pretty safe ignoring the Academy, and it would have stayed that way. Until I saw that the cover for issue 2 of this tie-in has the Darkhold on it. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown's coverage of Blood Hunt Episode 3, Kid Darkhold Returns! So on my next trip to my local comic shop, I flipped through this tie-in issue, and sure enough, I saw that I had to buy it. The book opens with the students going on a vampire tour of New Orleans, until the sky goes black and vampires attack everyone around them. The issue is largely focused around a green-haired girl named Pia, who has a small magical familiar that looks like a glowing blue bunny she calls Tito Pepping. During the attack, she snaps a shovel in half and uses the wooden end to stake a vampire. Not a bad showing for the new kid. The kids then get back to the safety of the school, and Headmaster Voodoo asks to chat with Pia. He asks if she knows anything about this, and she says no, and then the astral form of Doctor Strange agrees that she probably doesn't know anything. This is reason number 1 why I had to pick up this. Pia is then excused from the room, but she joins the other students listening at the door. Strange then asks Dr. Voodoo to handle the Montesi formula side of things. Strange then asks Dr. Voodoo to handle the Montesi formula stuff. They'll need the Darkhold in order to cast the spell, and with the Scarlet Witch currently captured by the enemy, they will need to investigate an echo of it that Strange was able to sense. Strange last felt an imprint of it in the island nation of Madripoor. Dr. Voodoo isn't thrilled with this request, but the kids are excited for it. They figure that they can get the Darkhold real quick, it's just an old book, bring it back to their headmaster, and then help save the world. They'll be back in time for dinner, it's going to be perfectly fine. So they teleport to Madripoor, and they find a young man who is dressed in a Victorian-era suit. He's got long black pants on, he's got a white t-shirt, he's got a vest buttoned up over top, and this kid is, for whatever insane reasons, carving runes into the dirt of the woods. They ask if he knows anything about the Darkhold, and here he sighs.
Agatha said this would happen. If they're looking for the Darkhold, well, they found it!
And magical glyphs dance up around him, rising from the dirt, and his eyes glows, and he floats, and that is the main reason why I bought this issue. When I finished reading the Contest of Chaos event, I honestly, 99%, didn't think that the Darkhold kid was ever going to show up anywhere else ever again. I thought he was just going to fade into obscurity and we would all pretend it didn't happen. But here he is. Hell yeah for continuity, baby. This is a long wait and run for a payoff to a previously not that great storyline, but that's... I'll read it, that's fine. This display of power by Kid Darkhold freaks out the Academy kids, and so they attack him. But Kid Darkhold handles them all pretty readily until he gets to Pia. Her familiar Tito jumps at Kid Darkhold, and he just, slaps him out of the air. And Pia sighs. This was going to happen eventually, she says, but she guesses she'll have to do it now. She tackles Kid Darkhold to the ground, and then she bites his neck. This kid's a freaking vampire! And then we get a brief scene at the end of the comic which bridges where we last saw Kid Darkhold and his appearance here. He and Agatha had been traveling, in this particular case by train, but he was basically a cheeky little
No swearing.
and was kind of driving her crazy. So after causing some chaos on that train, he escapes her watchful eye and heads towards Madripoor, which is where we found him. We also get another backup story featuring the origin of Pia. She originally saved Tito from a vampire and then got turned. Dr. Voodoo brought Tito back to her, and Tito then merged with her. This seems to grant her some form of protection from the sun, I think? And then Voodoo invited her to join Strange Academy. And overall, this issue was a very mixed bag for me. First off, none of the actual Strange Academy kids are written in anything or any way that is interesting to me. None of them demonstrate a unique power or personality or drive to invest me in this story. Ideally, that is something that Pia is supposed to be doing, and we're going to cover her in a minute, but as a new miniseries in the Strange Academy mythos, I think this sucks. As an absolute new reader, I got no introduction to who any of these kids are or what any of them can do. This issue was written under the assumption that I'm a long-term Academy reader, and I'm just not. That makes it hard to read and even harder to care about anything happening here. And I don't want to have to research who these characters are because there's like 5 or 6 of them, and like I pointed out, none of them are particularly important to what's going on in the moment, not to this particular issue. Pia is the character who gets the main focus. And first off, to the best of my knowledge, this is her first appearance. She narrates the issue. She saves her fellow students from vampires at the start of the issue. Dr. Voodoo specifically pulls her away from the group to talk to her. And again, this just makes Pia feel special. She is our narrative focus for the issue. And then we have the surprise ending of her being a vampire and the bonus story that appears to cover her origin. I am being told in no uncertain terms that I am supposed to care about this character. And that's really where I'm conflicted in this issue. Author Daniel Older does a lot of work with Pia here, and he plays most of it quite mysteriously. When Voodoo asks her to go to the office, we aren't told why he thinks that she should know something about the vampire attack. We, as an audience, are meant to be asking, why her? Why would she know something? What's going on here? But that particular thought process never clicked with me. I was honestly just more confused about why Voodoo would think a 14-year-old girl with a magic blue rabbit would be important at all, much less compared to the other students who I at least know have been in comics before and have superpowers and have done things. In her narration, Older makes sure to emphasize that Pia is putting on an act in front of the other students. She outright tells us, the audience, that she is lying to them and that she hates it. This is that first level of mystery that I mentioned, which is then compounded in that scene with Dr. Voodoo. Pia saving the other kids is also clearly meant to further engender her to us. She is competent in the field, she is heroic, and given how guilty she feels for lying to them, there's clearly something else going on here. And that's actually a really good mix for creating a new, intriguing character. It just didn't click for me, and I do think part of that comes from the hard time I have accepting new student characters, because so few of them have gone on to be notable characters in Marvel history at all. Why should I care about Pia when no one else from Strange Academy has mattered in almost anything else? The only other character that I'm vaguely familiar with is Zoe Laveau, and that's because she showed up in the Midnight Suns miniseries that set up the events of Contest of Chaos. Yeah. I also have one major question that really throws me off, and it's, why didn't any of these other kids know how to kill vampires? I'm not saying that vampires are like a super common enemy to run into in the Marvel Universe, but these kids do go to a magical school. Blade has taught there before. If I'm able to find a panel of Blade teaching them about killing vampires, I'd like to put it up right now. And vampires have been a thing in, like, real-world pop culture since, I think, like, 1840-something? 1846, something like that. Who doesn't know how to kill a vampire? And yet, Pia is the only one who manages to pull it off. That's some Mary Sue crap right there. At the end of the book, we then get the big reveal that she's a vampire. She is a bad guy, planted at the academy so that she could strike when the moment was perfect. And that could be the situation. It is also possible that the kids were clearly outclassed by Kid Darkhold, and by biting him and turning him into her thrall, Pia might be hoping to just control him. This could be a clever strategy on her part. We'll just have to wait and see. But as I said, it is totally possible that she is a plant and that she knew it, and that is why she has been manipulating and lying to the other kids, which we saw her do throughout the issue. When she is first turned into a vampire, we do see a vampire trying to capture that blue bunny, Tito Pepping. I would make an educated guess that the vampires wanted Tito because it seems able to protect its master from the harmful rays of the sun. We do see Pia out in the sun with the other students, and she's totally fine at the beginning of the issue. This kind of creature could be a great boon to either Blade or his minions if it was captured. We don't really know any of the rules about whatever this familiar is, but that's the one thing we are shown. But when Tito bonded with Pia, the vampire was forced to adjust its plans, and he turned to Pia instead. Putting this story at the end of the comic feels weird, because on the one hand, it is meant to explain how and why Pia came to the school. We're starting this issue with her already being there and everybody being like, "Wow, Pia, you sure are great. Wow, I sure do love Tito Pepping. He sure is cute." And that could be really jarring, again, if you were a long-term reader of Strange Academy. So this is meant to explain why she's at the school and why Dr. Voodoo singled her out earlier in the issue. And it gives us her origin. But this really feels, with its delivery here, like it undercuts the main narrative of the issue. Like Older goes to all of this trouble to build us a mystery. Who is Pia? What is she doing here? Why does Dr. Voodoo think she can handle this stuff? But then he just reveals his hand, especially after the even bigger and more shocking attack that she did on Kid Darkhold. This feels like the attack on Kid Darkhold is ending the issue on a 8 or 9 on the cliffhanger shocking scale, and then you get to this and it just feels like a 2 or a 3 on the shocking scale. I get it, she's a vampire, she bit a guy. The fact that you show me how she became a vampire is way less important to me, unless it's a drastically informative part of her character origin, and it doesn't seem like it is. I suppose I just don't understand why you wouldn't have put that scene at the opening of the next issue. Then you would return to Pia having bitten Kid Darkhold, and the story would go on, and we would explore, is she a good guy or is she a bad guy? So I don't really like the students going into this. I'm a bad fit for this book. I don't really like Pia because she just feels very manipulative as a character, but I do kind of love Kid Darkhold. And let's face it, he is the main reason that I'm buying this issue. I'm buying it for Kid Darkhold, and I'm buying it because we just saw in the Doctor Strange tie-in, Doctor Strange and Clea go, we have to still cast the Montesi formula, but we can't be the ones to focus on it. So they ring up Dr. Voodoo and they go, hey, can you cast the Montesi formula? And I think that's really smart. And I do have to admit that I think Kid Darkhold's a lot of fun. In the backup feature that he has with Agatha, Kid Darkhold is just an absolute little no swearing the entire time. He is annoying, he is difficult, he is a pain in Agatha's butt, and he does it all intentionally because he is chaos. Chthon is a god of chaos. The Darkhold is Chthon's book, and by turning it into a person, you would assume that that person is a troublemaker. Would I hate babysitting this kid in real life? Oh, absolutely. But do I think that that is the perfect type of character for the Darkhold to be? Oh, you better believe I do. I also like him outclassing the Academy students rather easily, despite having gone on adventures for 20-something issues of their own comic, because there was the main book, and then I think there was a follow-up book that wrapped up some of the plot lines. Like I said, I didn't read Strange Academy, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that The Darkhold is a super powerful book in the Marvel Universe canon. And given the nature of his existence, it seems like Kid Darkhold doesn't get drained casting spells. He doesn't have to pay any kind of cost for that magic, right? So he should overpower the kids. I like that, and I think it makes sense. Honestly, this is where Hopeful Ben is going to step in. I hope that this miniseries ends with him and Pia choosing to do the right thing and helping to save the world from the vampires, even if it means going against their evil or dangerous personal natures. And they then stick around and maybe we could get a new volume of Strange Academy. I know that it might sound insane for me to advocate for a new volume just so that Kid Darkhold could basically star in it, but that's the kind of connection that I'm missing with any of the other kids in this particular book. I will definitely be getting the rest of this particular miniseries, if only to see what happens. I don't think that this is a very good first issue, to be quite honest, but I am here for Kid Darkhold, and I'm here to see if the Montesi formula get casts. And so long as Kid Darkhold is in it, I'm going to be finishing this one out. Thank you for joining me on my continued coverage of Blood Hunt. Our next episode will be covering the Dracula miniseries. If you enjoyed this episode of Breakdown, please make sure to hit that like button, and if you are not subscribed to the show, then click on that as well. I love getting feedback, and I would really appreciate it if you did so. If you have any questions, concerns, or would like to suggest a comic or a series to me, Breakdown can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and on a variety of podcast platforms, with links in the description for this episode below, as well as the email cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Thank you for your time and attention.